Shalom Aleichem, everyone. Hope everyone is doing great. We're in Yeshiva. We are winding down. Yes. Right now I'm recording right before Shavuos. We're going to talk a little bit about Parshat Naso, but Mitzvah Hashem, we're looking forward to a beautiful Shavuos in Yeshiva, Hasmada B'li Batala. 2 days of very, very strong learning. We have an out Shabbos, and then we have Sunday, Monday, the banquet, and we're starting to come to a close. Tafshin Ayin Zayin. It's been an amazing, amazing year in Yeshiva. We have a record number of Shana Bet guys coming back. Next year, we have a very large Shana Aleph class coming in next year, Mitzvah Hashem. I think we just had a meeting, and it might be our biggest year in Mevaseret history. So Baruch Hashem, things are really good. Parshat Naso. So we're on the heels, on the aftermath of Chag HaShavuos, and then this week we read Parshat Naso, and I want to focus on one pasuk. And it's a very, very striking pasuk, and not the most glorious of parshas that you have. We have the parsha of Sota, where you have a married couple that is having marital problems, and the husband is mekane, accuses his wife, is jealous of his wife. She has yichud with another man, and we get into the parsha of Sota, and there are some very striking words that are used in the parsha, and I'll just open up Perek Hey pasuk Yud Beis. The Torah tells, Daber b'nei Yisrael v'amart alehem, Ish ish ki tiste ishto u'mo'ala bo mo'al. So a man whose wife is tiste, the lashon pasuk, tiste, she strays, and Rashi notes the word tiste comes from the word shote, a ruach shtus, some kind of irrational behavior. She's in a marriage, she should have an allegiance to her husband, some kind of irrational behavior befalls her, and she strays. And then the pasuk says u'mo'ala bo mo'al. Very, very striking formulation. First of all, the Torah uses the language of mi'ila. Mi'ila. Mi'ila we always associate with hekdesh. When there is hekdesh, I donate a behemoth to the Beis HaMikdash, property to the Beis HaMikdash, and then that property is used for non-hekdesh purposes. I get hana'ah from that property, inconsistent with the hekdesh nature of that object. So that's an isser of mi'ila. Demands a korban. It's an avera called mi'ila. So there's mi'ila is associated with kedusha. You have a kedusha, a hekdesh, and now you defile that hekdesh in some fashion. That's the language of mi'ila, and that's, I think, telling us something very, very striking about Jewish marriage. We do not see marriage as merely an opportunity to go ahead and build a family, and that two people fall in love and they go ahead and now share a life together. We see something much more profound than that. We see it as a status of kedusha. We see it as kiddushin, that the woman is aser al kol ha'olam kehegdesh. There's a kedusha in this relationship, and Chazal tell us, the Gemara Maseches Kiddushin tells us, that if the couple is working well together, ish v'isha, Shruya Shechina B'neihem, there is Shechina in that relation, there's Shechina in that couple. The fact that Hashem is with the couple, even in the marital bedroom, there's a sense of Shechina, of Kedusha. That is a very, very striking aspect. And now you have the couple is not working in tandem, the couple is not together, so the Lashon HaPasuk is Mi'ila, is a breach of that fundamental status of Hegdesh. And then the Torah writes, not Mo'al B'Hashem, but Mo'alo Bo, that she is in a certain sense rebelling, deviating, defiling her husband. And the Maharik, in a very, very celebrated tshuva quoted lahalacha in Shulchan Aruch in Even HaEzer, makes a striking diuk. It's not in Chazal, but it's in Poskim, that if a woman, for example, you have two scenarios, two types of women who go stray. One woman ends up sleeping with another man who's not her husband. She believes he's her husband. It's all dark, she cannot tell, and then in the morning light, she realizes, oh, I thought this was my husband. It turns out not to be my husband. She committed znus. But that, says the Marik, does not sever the marital relationship, because the man she thought she was with was her husband. It's not mo'ala bo mo'al. It's not a me'ila against her husband because she thinks she's with her husband. She's not rebelling against her husband. She thinks she's certainly shogeg, but she's not rebelling because she thinks she's with her husband. What about the following scenario, says the Marik, that she knows she's not with her husband. She knows exactly who it is, but she happens to think, a shogeges, she thinks it's mutter to be with another man. She's no meres mutter. She doesn't realize there is an isser in being with another man. So in such a case, the Marik says, according to Halach and Shulchan Aruch, that even though she's a shogeges, just like our first case, she was a shogeges, but this is a me'ila bo. She understands she's now breaching her marital relationship, and she's doing it beratzon. She's doing it with a man she knows not to be her husband. She's doing something to sever that marital bond, and therefore it's ma'ala bo, not ma'al b'Hashem, ma'ala bo. There's something very, very sacred that the Torah is telling us in the ish-isha relationship. And even if klape shmaya, she's not necessarily doing a classic aver b'mezid, she thinks this is mutter. She's under a misconception, two misconceptions, but one misconception where she thinks she's with her husband, so that's not a me'ila against her husband. But where she knows that this is not her husband, that would be a case of ma'ala bo. It would fracture the marital relationship. That's the dik that's made by the Maharik. And I think there's something very, very profound and very significant over here in the Parsha of Sota that perhaps helps us understand the Kedusha and the uniqueness of that marital relationship, how powerful it is, how special it is, and how tragic when Rahman al-Islam things start to fall apart. But the Torah tells us as part of this process of Sota is that we take the Shem Hashem, the Kohen writes the Shem Hashem on a parchment, and as part of this process, the Shem Hashem gets put in water and it gets erased. Clearly an Isser Doraisa of Mechikas Hashem. And Hashem could have done this process, could have constructed in any way. But the way he chooses to construct this process is through Mechikas Hashem, erasing the Shem Hashem, and hopefully she'll drink from those waters and she'll be fine. And maybe she'll even have the bracha of being able to have more children, and things will work out okay. We're going to erase the Shem Hashem, violate what otherwise is a very, very chamur Isra Doraisa, Mechikas Hashem. And why does Hashem do this? Why is this the structure that Hashem chooses? The Gemara in Sota explains. Because Hashem is even willing to have his name erased, his name defiled, what we'll call a chilul Hashem, for the sake of shalom bayis, ben ish le'ishto. And that's telling us something very, very profound. It's elevating, putting on such a pedestal, this fundamental, foundational relationship. The foundational relationship of Yahadus is not the community, is not the shul, is not the shevet, is not even the nation. The foundational relationship is the mishpacha, and at the core of that is ish ve'isha, is husband and wife. And Hashem is telling us, I'll do anything, erase my name, bend rules, in order to go ahead and preserve that sense of shalom bayis. It's a very, very profound and significant lesson. We know countless Gemaras that tell us, Gemara Maseches Ksubis, Gemara Maseches Yivamis, that if you have a clash between shalom versus sheker, if you can avoid the clash, sure, these are two primary values, shalom versus sheker. But if you can't navigate that clash, the Gemara tells us in a number of different contexts, shalom versus sheker will go ahead and always side in the side of shalom. It will go ahead and bend rules, bend halachos, mishum shalom bayis, mishum kavod habrios, in order to preserve the unique kedusha. Obviously, we have to ask shilas when we can, when we can't. But the overall message that the Torah is telling us in this Parshas Hasota is that the kedusha of the ish-isha relationship is very deep, very profound. The fact that we can bring new life into the world in that relationship, the kiddushin of that relationship, the sanctity of that relationship is so foundational. Hashem says, I'll do anything. I'll even bend rules, bend dinim d'oraisa, to preserve, to promote that relationship. And we find that throughout, that mishum shalom bayis will almost do anything. Not anything, but almost anything. And that, I think, highlights, and it's a lesson we learn from Parshat Sota, how significant that is, because we all understand a failed marriage can lead to Rahman al-Islam ben Sorer Morer and other problems. That's exactly what these parshas are telling us. We go from Nazir to Sota, ben Sorer Morer, to make sure everything has an impact on everything else. But perhaps the most significant thing for those of us who are not yet married, tap in, appreciate the kedusha of the relationship that Be'ez Hashem you'll have with your spouse, Bekarov, Be'amenu. And for those who aren't married, understand how significant, how special, how profound the relationship you're in is. How significant Hashem is willing to do almost anything to preserve that sense of shalom bayis. And if Hashem's willing to do that, then certainly we should go the extra yard, the extra mile, whatever distance it takes, to make sure that we are promoting and preserving and creating shalom bayis in this most holiest of relationships.